She's going to view my speech. Ben is a 5-year-old nonverbal autistic child. Ben presents aggressive behavior to adults when he does not want to accomplish a task. Although Ben has never been aggressive to students, his behavior can be distracting to others. Now imagine yourself as a teacher. How would you feel about Ben's behavior? Do you believe Ben should be in a classroom with other students or in a room for students like himself? According to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, students who receive special education services should spend as much time as possible with the general education students. The least restrictive environment portion of the IDEA states that students with special education services should only be removed from the general education setting when the disability is so severe that supplementary aids and services can provide your child with the appropriate education. Although providing an equal education for special education students is important, there are pros and cons to inclusion in a general education classroom setting. In a study done by Jennifer Kurth, a professor at the University of Kansas, between the years 1998 and 2008, about 37% of students on the spectrum spent 80% of their day in an inclusive environment. In other words, the special education students spent a majority of their day in the general education room. Colorado, Connecticut, Iowa, and West Virginia are among the states that favor inclusion. These districts that favor inclusion have found the positive side to inclusion for special education students. For example, students in an inclusion classroom meet their individualized education plans better. When students with IEPs are placed in a general education classroom, there are less students that require one-on-one attention, therefore IEP students can receive more services. Additionally, IEP students gain social skills from other students, and general education students grow up being more accepting. If child-specific factors were solely responsible for education placement decisions, one would expect states to have similar rates of inclusive self-contained mainstreaming and separate school placements for students with ASDs. Instead, results indicate that educational placement varies by state, stated Kurth in her research findings. Alaska, Florida, Louisiana, and New York have been found to contain classrooms that provide restrictive settings. Among the positive side found for inclusion, there is also a negative side. For example, when IEP students are placed in a general education classroom, there tends to be more disruptions for the other students. Students with special needs tend to have triggers that set them off into a meltdown. When these meltdowns occur, students are more focused on the other student in their meltdown instead of their work. Special education students are placed in a general education room because it is cheaper, not because it benefits the student. In conclusion, according to the IDEA, students receiving special education services should only be placed in a restrictive environment when they are physically unable to handle the general education setting. When included in a general education classroom, IEP students may gain social skills from peers and others will become more accepting. On the other hand, when IEP students are placed in a general education setting, there tends to be more distractions and the IEP students' meltdowns increases. Unfortunately, there does not seem to be a set answer for how and when students should be included in a classroom. Every day, teachers work tirelessly to provide a great education for students regardless of their abilities.